Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you to reflect on something profoundly simple yet remarkably powerful: the ability to believe in yourself. Believing in yourself is not about arrogance, nor is it blind optimism. It is an educated decision to trust your capabilities, to respect your potential, and to stop outsourcing your worth to the opinions of others. It is the beginning of all meaningful transformation. Believing in yourself is not merely a motivational idea or a fleeting phrase. It is the foundation upon which all personal growth is built. Without it, the best strategies, tools, or opportunities often fall flat. With it, even the most modest resources can be transformed into something exceptional. It is important to understand that belief in oneself is not a luxury reserved for the privileged or the lucky. It is an intentional mindset that must be nurtured, especially in the early stages of any journey toward personal development. Often the problem begins not with a lack of ability, but with a lack of trust in that ability. People hesitate to take action not because they are incapable, but because they are unsure if they're good enough to begin. They wait for external validation from mentors, peers, or society at large before taking themselves seriously. But here lies the truth: no meaningful transformation happens until you become your own validator. The journey of growth starts not when someone else gives you permission, but when you give it to yourself. Self-belief is not a loud declaration of success. It is a quiet but consistent trust in your potential. It means accepting that even if you are not yet where you want to be, you are capable of getting there. It is an internal contract you make with yourself. I may not know everything, I may fail along the way, but I believe I have the capacity to grow. This belief also acts as a filter for your choices. When you believe in your potential, you begin to choose differently. You say yes to challenges that stretch you. You set boundaries that protect your energy. You resist the urge to follow the crowd because you trust your path. You become selective with your time because you recognize your value. This is how belief in oneself becomes a quiet form of self-respect. It is not about perfection, it is about intention. For example, imagine someone with a deep desire to improve their communication skills. Without self-belief, they might avoid speaking up, dismiss their own opinions, or assume others know more than they do. But when they begin to believe in their ability to learn and grow, everything changes. They may not start as the most articulate, but they show up to every conversation with purpose. They observe, they practice, they refine. Over time, belief turns into competence, but it all started with the decision to back themselves. Another dimension of self-belief is its role in resilience. Life is rarely linear. Challenges, rejections, and failures are inevitable. What differentiates those who grow from those who retreat is not talent, it is the presence or absence of self-belief. When you believe in yourself, failure does not define you, it informs you. You see obstacles not as signs to stop, but as feedback for course correction. You don't internalize defeat as identity. Instead, you learn, adjust, and continue forward. Belief in yourself reduces dependence on external praise. It builds emotional independence. When your sense of worth no longer hinges on being constantly affirmed, you become far more focused, calm, and strategic. You are no longer chasing approval, you are working from clarity, and this internal clarity radiates outward. It influences how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you set goals, and how you recover from setbacks. Educating oneself plays a critical role in strengthening self-belief. The more you know not just about your field of interest, but about yourself, the stronger your foundation becomes. Self-awareness and self-belief go hand in hand. As you become more conscious of your strengths, patterns, and tendencies, you begin to operate with greater confidence. You stop hiding from your flaws and start working on them with discipline and maturity. In essence, self-belief is not passive, it's an active choice you make every single day. You choose it when you speak kindly to yourself. You choose it when you take responsibility for your growth. You choose it when you stand tall even when no one claps. This inner choice, repeated over time, becomes a habit, and this habit, cultivated consistently, becomes the foundation of not just success, but of self-mastery. So when you think of becoming a better version of yourself, don't begin with strategies or outcomes. Begin with belief, because everything else builds on that. Confidence is often misunderstood as a personality trait, something people are either born with or not. This misconception can be damaging, especially for those who view themselves as shy, uncertain, or not naturally outgoing. In reality, confidence is not a fixed trait. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, developed, and refined over time through intentional effort. This understanding is not only empowering, but also liberating. It shifts the focus from "I am not confident" to "How can I build confidence?" That question opens the door to growth. The belief that confidence is innate tends to stop people from trying new things. They look at confident individuals and assume they were just born that way, without realizing the work behind the scenes. In truth, what looks like effortless confidence is often the result of small, repeated actions, speaking up when it's uncomfortable, practicing skills behind closed doors, making mistakes and trying again. Confidence is built through experience, repetition, and a willingness to keep showing up even when you don't feel ready. Imagine confidence as a muscle. If you never exercise it, it remains weak. If you work it consistently, even with light effort at first, it becomes stronger. Every time you step slightly outside your comfort zone, you're adding weight to that muscle. Each act of courage, no matter how small, contributes to a larger sense of self-assurance. The key is consistency. You don't become confident overnight, just as you don't become physically strong in a single workout. But you get there by staying committed to the process. One of the most effective ways to build confidence is through preparation. When you take the time to prepare for something, whether it's a presentation, a conversation, or an interview, you naturally feel more equipped to handle it. This preparedness translates into self-assurance. You may still feel nervous, but you no longer feel powerless. You know you've put in the effort, and that effort becomes your support. It's a practical form of self-respect. When you prepare, you send a message to yourself: I am worth the effort. My goals matter. Confidence also comes from competence, and competence comes from learning. When you commit to learning something thoroughly, whether it's a skill, a topic, or a personal improvement, you begin to feel more grounded. You're no longer guessing your way through situations. Instead, you rely on what you've learned, and that knowledge reinforces your confidence. This is why investing in your personal development is one of the most valuable things you can do. The more you learn, the more capable you feel. The more capable you feel, the more confident you become. Another overlooked aspect of confidence is body language and presence. How you carry yourself often speaks before you say a single word. When you hold your posture upright, maintain eye contact, and speak clearly, you not only project confidence but start to feel it internally. There is a feedback loop between your body and your mind. Adjusting your physical presence, even when you don't yet feel confident, can signal to your brain that you are in control. This is not about faking confidence. It's about choosing to act in alignment with the person you are becoming. It is also essential to understand that confidence is not the absence of fear or doubt. Even the most accomplished individuals experience nerves, uncertainty, and moments of hesitation. What sets them apart is their decision to act anyway. They acknowledge the fear, but don't let it stop them. They understand that courage is what creates confidence. The more you do things that scare you within reason, the more you normalize discomfort, and the less intimidating those situations become. Your internal dialogue plays a powerful role in your confidence journey. The words you use with yourself either reinforce belief or reinforce limitation. Practice speaking to yourself with the same kindness and encouragement you would offer a friend. When you fail, don't say, "I'm terrible at this." Say, "I'm learning, I'll get better." This simple shift can dramatically influence how you see yourself and how resilient you become. Ultimately, building confidence is about taking responsibility for your mindset and your actions. It's not waiting for the perfect moment or external validation. It's deciding to step forward even imperfectly because growth is more important than comfort. Over time, as you see the results of your consistent efforts, your belief in yourself deepens. Confidence becomes a natural extension of who you are, not because it was always there, but because you chose to build it. So if you find yourself saying, "I wish I were more confident," know this: it's not something you wait for. It's something you create one intentional step at a time. Believing in yourself does not have to be loud or flashy. In fact, one of the most powerful forms of self-belief is expressed through subtle, refined shifts in mindset, what can be called practical elegance in how you perceive and carry yourself. This is not about surface-level self-esteem or performative confidence. It is about the internal grace you bring to your decisions, habits, and thought patterns. It's a cultivated form of self-respect, grounded in awareness and discipline. These refined shifts, though quiet, create a lasting impact on how you live and how others experience you. Elegance in mindset begins with intentional thought. Instead of reacting impulsively to challenges, setbacks, or criticism, you pause. You observe, you process. This shift from reaction to reflection is not only mature but deeply empowering. It allows you to remain in control of your narrative instead of handing that power over to circumstances or opinions. Belief in yourself means trusting that you can handle things not just when they go right, but especially when they don't. And that trust is developed in the quiet moments when you choose composure over chaos. Another refined mindset shift is how you perceive failure. Many people see failure as proof that they are not good enough. A more elevated and constructive mindset sees failure as part of the refinement process. You do not collapse into self-judgment. You analyze the experience with objectivity. You ask yourself, what can I improve? What did this teach me? What would I do differently next time? These questions are simple but profound. They reflect a belief that your identity is not tied to any single event, that you are a work in progress, always evolving. This form of thinking demands discipline. It is easy to be emotionally reactive or to let negative thoughts take over when things go wrong. But elegant thinking, and by extension, elegant living, requires you to develop a certain level of emotional resilience. You choose not to entertain thoughts that belittle you or distort your self-worth. You guard your mind from unnecessary noise. You become your own mental gatekeeper, filtering what is helpful and discarding what is not. This, too, is a form of self-belief, knowing that your mind is a space worthy of protection and care. Practical elegance also shows up in how you manage your time, your space, and your energy. You no longer say yes to everything simply out of guilt or fear of missing out. You start evaluating decisions based on alignment with your goals, values, and emotional well-being. You become more selective, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You realize that every yes to something external is a no to something internal: your rest, your priorities, your peace. This refinement in choices reflects a quiet confidence. It shows that you value your presence and understand its worth. How you speak to yourself and others is another area where practical elegance is expressed. When you believe in yourself, you do not need to prove your intelligence or assert your opinions forcefully. You communicate with clarity and calm, listening just as much as you speak. You understand the power of language and how it shapes identity, not just yours, but also that of those around you. You begin to speak with more intention, choosing words that uplift, instruct, or inspire rather than those that criticize or compare. This manner of speaking doesn't just sound refined, it feels balanced and rooted in self-assurance. It's also worth noting that self-belief does not mean being unbothered by everything. Rather, it means having the ability to process your emotions in a grounded way. You allow yourself to feel without being consumed. You allow yourself to rest without feeling guilty. You understand that your value is not measured by productivity, performance, or perfection. This acceptance is one of the most refined forms of strength. It shows that you have evolved beyond constant self-judgment and have instead chosen a relationship with yourself based on respect, not punishment. Even your goals become more purposeful. Instead of chasing outcomes to impress others, you begin setting goals that align with your deeper values. You no longer need external validation to feel accomplished. You find joy in the process, the quiet moments of growth, the unseen efforts, the discipline behind the scenes. You begin to live not just to be seen, but to be fulfilled. This shift from external display to internal alignment is the essence of practical elegance, and it is rooted in a deep, unwavering belief in your worth. In the end, believing in yourself is not always about big declarations. Sometimes it's about small, consistent choices. The way you speak, the boundaries you set, the thoughts you entertain, and the standards you uphold. These choices, while subtle, create a powerful foundation. They elevate your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your life. So if you wish to live with grace, direction, and depth, start by refining the way you think about yourself. Believe in yourself not just loudly, but elegantly, intelligently, and intentionally. Believing in yourself is not a momentary spark of motivation. It is a disciplined, ongoing decision to trust your potential, refine your mindset, and take purposeful action. It begins as a quiet thought, but grows into a guiding force that shapes how you think, speak, and live. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you build step by step through preparation, effort, and persistence. And true self-belief is expressed not just in what you achieve, but in how gracefully and intentionally you carry yourself through the process. When you choose to believe in yourself with quiet strength, with elegant thought, and with steady courage, you become the author of your own growth. And that, more than anything, is where real transformation begins.